Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, right out of the gate, I just want to say, if you love breaking down the hidden mechanics of the sport, make sure you hit that button and subscribe to the Rugby Obsession feed right now. We've got an amazing community building here.
Absolutely. It's been fantastic to see the discussions happening.
It really has. So, to set the scene for you, it is March 2026, and the South African Springboks are, well, they're sitting at an altitude of absolute dominance in world rugby.
Yeah, back-to-back world champions.
Right. And looking out from the summit, nobody really seems capable of pushing them off. So the mission of this deep dive, and we're drawing entirely from a really compelling opinion piece by James Waugh, is to explore the methods coach Erasmus is using to keep his team at that peak.
Especially when nobody else can push them.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the central thesis of this source material is, well, it's fascinating.
It is. I mean, the piece points out that understanding this whole situation requires looking at a very unique problem, the problem of being almost too good.
Wait, too good.
Yeah, the Springboks have been sitting alone at the summit for nearly 3 years. So the biggest question isn't actually who can beat them anymore. It's how do they avoid beating themselves?
Right, because entropy just kind of naturally sets in, doesn't it?
Exactly. When the opposition can't stretch your limits, you subconsciously lower your intensity. So the author brings in this brilliant historical analogy to explain how they fight this. Steve Waugh's Australian cricket team in the year 2000.
Oh, wow. That was a legendary squad.
Unbelievable talent. But they were so dominant, no opposition could challenge them. So Waugh created this radical system of non-negotiable internal stretch targets.
So they were basically competing against themselves.
Precisely. They were competing against a perfected mathematical version of themselves. And the source lists some of these specific targets, which are just brutal.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, first, they must always bat first if they win the toss, no matter what.
Wow. Taking away the safety net entirely.
Yeah. And the batsmen, they had to score at least 4 runs per over. Meanwhile, the bowlers needed a strike rate under 54 and an economy under 3 runs per over.
That is, that is incredibly rigid.
Completely rigid. And there were 0 exceptions for seniority. If a veteran didn't hit the metrics, he was out.
You know, that actually reminds me of playing a racing video game on, like, ghost mode.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, when the AI opponents are no longer fast enough to challenge you, you have to race against the translucent ghost of your own absolute best lap time to keep improving. You're not looking at the other cars, you're just racing your ideal self.
That is a perfect way to look at it. What's fascinating here is how Waugh engineered that sustained dominance by giving his talent pool a rigid ceiling to push against rather than just letting them coast.
Right, because coasting is the enemy. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because Erasmus is practically applying this exact concept in 2026 by building this terrifying, unprecedented depth.
Oh, the depth is staggering. The source actually describes the Springbok front row depth as being deeper than the Mariana Trench.
The Mariana Trench, I love that phrasing.
It's accurate, though. I mean, just listen to the staggering list of players in the system. You've got Oxnech, Franz Malherbe, who is thankfully back from injury, by the way, Vincent Koch, Wilco Liu, Gerhard Steenkamp.
And that's just the start of it.
Right. Then you add Thomas du Toit, Malcolm Marx, Punji Mbanambi, Johan Grobbelaar, and Jan-Hendrik Wessels.
It's absurd. Any other nation would kill for just a fraction of that list.
Exactly. And the author highlights their March alignment camp to show how serious this is. This wasn't just a basic scouting trip. It was run as a highly competitive selection crucible.
Yeah, and they were bringing in guys from everywhere. They included U20 players, guys who haven't even made their URC debuts yet.
Uncapped talents, too, like Safitha Nabale.
Wait, hasn't he literally not even played professional club rugby yet?
He hasn't. It's incredible. But he's in there, along with Kai Pratt and Asanathingala Bakanye. And the source also notes that Cameron Hanekom is now a senior regular. Sacha Feinberg Mungamazulu is officially in the leadership cohort. And Evan Roos is rapidly approaching his peak.
So when a third-choice loosehead can basically trouble any Northern Hemisphere tighthead, South Africa is just, they're playing an entirely different sport.
They really are. And because Erasmus has engineered this massive talent pool, he obviously needs a place to test it, right?
Right.
Which perfectly explains his really controversial approach to the upcoming Nations Championship schedule.
Ah, yes, the split squad. Now, before we dive into the schedule and how they're deploying this, I just want to quickly remind you to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession feed.
Definitely do that.
And actually, I want to ask you, the listener, directly drop a comment and let us know your thoughts and opinions on this.
Yeah.
Do you think a split squad strategy respects the opposition and the fans, or is it purely a genius developmental move? We really want to hear what you think.
It's such a massive debate right now.
It is. So talk to me about this nation's championship schedule.
Well, the source notes that Erasmus is operating a split squad for this inaugural tournament. He is basically using it as a high-stakes development program.
The schedule is brutal, though. 6 tests across 2 windows, right?
Yeah, so July features England at Ellis Park, and then they play Scotland and Wales. And then November is a massive northern tour against Italy, France at the Stade de France, and finally Ireland.
Wow. So the Northern Hemisphere teams are going to arrive in July expecting what they think is a weakened rotated squad.
That's the trap. They'll expect a weakened squad, but they are actually going to face a machine built entirely to Erasmus's internal standards. He is blooding players against England who would normally wait like 18 months just to get a cap.
So it's not a gamble.
No, not at all. This is the Waugh principle in a rugby jersey. Erasmus doesn't need England or France to push his players anymore. He needs the tournament structure itself to prove that these developing players can meet his internal metrics.
That makes so much sense. But if they're being tested against internal standards instead of the opponent, what exactly are those specific standards?
The author outlines some really intense inferred targets. For one, a scrum that dominates, not just competes.
Which, with that Mariana Trench of depth, makes sense.
Right. And a lineout functioning at 97% or higher, completely regardless of who the thrower is.
Wait, 97%? That leaves zero room for error.
Exactly. Then there's the demand for replacements who fundamentally change the game state, rather than just maintaining it. They also demand an identical defensive system, whether it's the first or second choice back row on the pitch.
So the system doesn't dip at all.
Never. And finally, kicking accuracy that does not drop off whatsoever in the final quarter of the match.
These are basically hard floors. Like, if you don't meet them, you simply don't play.
You don't. And the brutal reality of that math is that established, decorated legends are falling by the wayside. The piece mentions that Trevor Nakin, Willie LaRue, and specifically Bongi Mbonambi have recently discovered this.
Yeah, Mbonambi isn't even in the current alignment camp picture, right?
Nope. And it's not because of his age or a sudden loss of form. It's simply because the next generation currently meets the absolute standard, and that's all the system cares about.
Okay, let me push back on that for a second.
Yeah.
If you cut a decorated veteran like Mbonambi just because a rookie hits the 97% line-out metric, do you risk losing that intangible leadership and experience that wins World Cup finals?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source argues that in this engineered system, sentimentality has literally zero place, none. The standard is the only thing that matters.
So the execution of the standard itself is what neutralizes the chaos of a World Cup final.
Exactly. It's clinical, but it works.
It's ruthless. So with South Africa being so hyper-focused on their own metrics, we really have to look outward. Where does this leave their biggest traditional rivals?
Well, the rest of the world is basically playing catch-up. I mean, take France. They boast the most aesthetically compelling attacking rugby in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful to watch.
Yeah, their November clash at the Stade de France is going to be the event of the year, without a doubt.
And Ireland.
Ireland's defensive system and their sheer work rate at the breakdown give them the structural tools they need to compete. They are always a threat.
What about New Zealand?
New Zealand is perpetually reconstructing themselves. They're perpetually relevant, and you know they will always bring drama and intensity to the Rugby Championship.
So what does this all mean? Despite these strengths from France and Ireland and New Zealand, are they closing the gap?
The author makes a pretty stark observation. Despite all of those massive strengths, every single one of these nations walks into a 2026 fixture against South Africa as an underdog.
Wow.
Yeah, the margin is not closing.
That really synthesizes the sheer scale of Erasmus's ambition, doesn't it? He looks at a world champion team, he sees a Mariana Trench of depth, and his conclusion is just that he needs to go deeper.
It's incredible, and it leaves us with this final, really provocative thought drawn from the implications of the text. As fans and pundits argue over whether Erasmus's developmental split squad ruins the quote-unquote spectacle of the nation's championship, are we missing the bigger picture?
Which is?
Are we missing the fact that South Africa has fundamentally evolved beyond playing the opponent? They are forcing the rest of the world to either adopt this ruthless internal standard model or just accept permanent second place.
That is a chilling thought for any other team out there, but an amazing place for the Springboks to be.
Yeah.
If you want to keep exploring these massive tactical shifts with us, make sure to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession feed. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.